Hello, everybody, and happy Friday. Welcome to This Week at CFSA. My name is Nick Wood. I serve as the Policy Director at the Carolina Farm Stewardship Association, and I'm really excited to have two and possibly three guests coming up during this program. This is Buying Local Food Month. For this week at CFSA, and it's springtime. So, what better subject to talk about than farmers markets? And today we're going to have a wide ranging discussion of buying local food, how it relates to access, the impact of COVID-19 on farmers markets, and really a discussion of the challenges in starting and maintaining markets to assure people have a place to buy that local fresh food, as well as some potential policy solutions and possibly much more. So this is such a big topic that we've got a couple guests joining us right now. First is April Jones, who is the founder of the Pinehurst Farmers Market in South Carolina, and Angel Woodrum, who is the Farmers Market Incentives Coordinator for RAFI USA and a former market manager as well. So I want to turn it over and maybe start with April, just to introduce yourself, tell us about all the great work you're doing about your market, and whatever you want to let people know. So.
All right. Hey, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm so excited to have this conversation with Nick and Angel about our local food system. So I have the Pinehurst Farmers Market. I founded it about 2 years ago in sunny Columbia, South Carolina, in the Pinehurst neighborhood. So we're located downtown Columbia, off the Two-Notch Business Corridor next to Benedict College Stadium. And we're here every Wednesday from 1:30 until 3 o'clock. And we are a women-led farmer group. So that's very exciting to support women. We had International Women's Day just a couple days ago. So it's exciting, women in agriculture. And they have just amazing stuff, fresh, delicious, local, and you're supporting your local economy and your local farmer at the Pinehurst Farmers Market.
Absolutely. And there's some folks I know in North Carolina that I'd love to connect you with who are on similar missions. So Angel.
Yeah, so I'm Angel Woodrum. I started at RAFI USA this past January as the expanding farmers market access coordinator. And I coordinate two programs that essentially do the same thing, where SNAP incentives used at farmers markets are doubled. And this just allows farmers markets to have more access, people to have more access to fresh local foods. I work with various markets in the Triangle, as well as in the more eastern part of the state and some in the western part. So all over North Carolina is where the programs are taking place.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And what a challenge to come in January, you said. So great work, and we're glad to be learning from you as you get acclimated to your new position. So when we spoke yesterday, one topic that kept coming up is the value of local food. And I wanted to ask what that means to each of you, as well as what that means for creating the ability for people who care about our local food systems, who want delicious, fresh, and healthy food provided at their markets. What does that mean to you, and how does it relate? Maybe we'll start with Angel this time, and then hear from April.
Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, I emailed the farmers market managers that I work with and asked them for some stories or quotes from customers that are utilizing the Double Bucks program. And
could you explain what the Double Bucks program is?
For sure, yeah. So the Double Bucks program is in Triangle, North Carolina markets. And with this program, someone using their SNAP benefits can come to market and say they get $20 off of their card. The market will then double that $20, so they would have a total of $40 to spend at market. So as well as cash, if people have cash on them that they are wanting to double, they can do that, and various other methods. But the main method to double the funds is through an EBT card. And so that is what the markets are doing. And in receiving feedback from customers who had shopped this way, it was really awesome to hear things like, mothers would say the health of my whole family has really improved since shopping here and getting these local produce. We've had a lot more energy is something that we would hear from a lot of customers, as well as just they were excited that their kids were getting to come with them and shop and see the farmers and learn about where the food was coming from and get to ask the farmers questions. And there's really a sense of just feeling as if they had, a role in something larger happening than you may not get when shopping at a grocery store. So it was very much a connected community feel that I read in these responses, as well as when I managed the Durham Farmers Market, there's just a lot of gratitude, like toward the program, as well as just toward the farmers and toward getting access to this fresh produce that was grown locally, that there is more of a connection to. So yeah, it was just a lot of gratitude and excitement and a lot of just health things that people would speak about when eating more locally and having access to fresh produce. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and so what I'm is not only do we have the food itself, it's the sense of community that gets built between farmers who are growing and selling in that very community that people live as well, and I think that really speaks to what value is and why it is so important that people have the ability to purchase local food in their communities. And so, April, I want to just turn it over to you. What are you thinking?
I'm going to go on the same path as Angel. That's a fabulous path, so I'm going to follow along. As a mother, I see my own son, like when I refine his diet and I take away all the processed, everything processed, even if it's organic processed, take it all away and just give him like fruits, his vegetables, orange juice, but like fresh orange juice, etc., etc. His behavior is so much better. He's like a little angel. And then when I give him the processed treats, it's like he doesn't want to go to sleep at night and he's just wild and it's just like, oh my goodness. And so I've seen in my own family the benefits of eating local, buying things from the Pinehurst Farmers Market, fresh eggs, the vegetables. He eats fresh turnips. He likes them just raw. And his behavior is improved. And so in my own life, I'm like, this is wonderful. Everyone should replicate this. So it's just about, like Angel said, having access, giving our children an opportunity to eat as well as they possibly can, and to support our local farmers, which are so important. We have such amazing farmers in South Carolina, and we have such beautiful land and such amazing produce, and it's such a resource as a state. It's just such a blessing to have, and to be able to have an opportunity for the farmers to come to the Pinehurst Farmers Market and to sell to the community. It's just such a blessing because the food is nutrient dense. It gives you more energy. It has more vitamins and minerals to make you more healthy. And when you eat locally, your body is ready to receive those nutrients more readily than if it's coming from, say, the Netherlands, Denmark, the UK, etc. So it's exciting.
Well, I know that I feel better if I've had a piece of fresh local fruit than a bowl of ice cream. Unfortunately, last night I went with the ice cream, and you can tell. So diet really has a huge impact, and being able to buy local food and being able to eat it is just so important. I want to shift gears for a sec, because it wouldn't be a conversation in 2020, 2021 if we didn't talk about COVID. And so maybe we'll start with April this time, and want to hear, I'm really interested in learning, number one, how this impacted people's attitudes and knowledge about local food, as well as what were the challenges and adaptations that markets had to make during this time.
I mean, COVID was a hard time for everyone. It was just really trying. And I'm thankful that we're kind of coming through this as a stronger community, right? I think that it taught all of us, especially here in Columbia, how we need to rely on each other. We need to rely on our community, and we have resources. We have vast resources in our community that are underutilized and undersupported. And it's our duty as South Carolinians to recognize that and to take steps to utilize these resources and to invest in these resources. And so with the pandemic, the supply chain was chaotic, if nothing else. And so to have the resource of the land and the crops and the fabulous farmers was a blessing. And to be able to be in a small city where people can just drive quickly, pick up their vegetables was such a blessing. And I think it taught all of us to invest in our local farmers and to buy from our local farmers. And they're such a resource. They're like God's gift to the to the country, because I'm a gardener, and it's hard. It's so hard to get to that level of expertise to say I have enough to feed myself and then have extra to sell to other people. And so the farmers are experts. They've invested time, energy, years of experience, family legacy of growing, that's passed generation to generation. You can't just replicate that in a day. And so it was a blessing because South Carolina has a rich agricultural history that people could pull upon and say, yeah, I'm ready for my fresh vegetables. And so it's been such a trying time, but it's been a blessing because our community's been able to come together and support our farmers, which is so important.
Absolutely. And I think coming together is a great transition to Angel. And I'll let you speak to this, but there were some challenges and some changes right after COVID hit, and there was some coming together to utilize our collective resources. So let us know.
Yeah, that was a great response, April. I agree with everything that you said, and I definitely saw a lot of that when I was at the Durham market when those shutdowns began to happen with the COVID restrictions and whatnot. And the only thing I would add to that part is just the safety that people would feel being outside in an open air market versus a grocery store that may have a long line outside because there's only allowing so many people in at a time, and just that feeling of being inside with germs and whatnot. But a market is open air, it's fresh. Only one person would handle the vegetables at a time before they gave them to the customer. And so I think that our SNAP sales increased by over 100% at most of the markets. And I think a large part of that is just that safety factor of people would feel safer at market, as well as a lot of things being sold out in grocery stores. But there were a lot of challenges in operating a farmer's market this time last year. And we saw a lot of people come together, not only market managers, but other nonprofits and other agencies such as CFSA and RAFI came together to just hold calls and also get legislation or protocols in place that did allow for markets to stay open. As grocery stores, since we weren't seeing grocery stores shut down, farmers markets also should not be shut down because they are essential. Not only are they providing jobs and income for farmers, but they're providing access to fruits and vegetables. And a large part of that, in my opinion, was SNAP sales are very essential at this time, especially since, you cannot shop with EBT online. You can't do curbside pickup with your EBT card, but you can come to market in an open air, safe environment. And so, there's definitely a lot of work between organizations, a lot of information sharing between market managers to really just get the word out on this is how we're remaining safe at market, how we're protecting our staff and our customers and our farmers at market, as well as just really pushing county and state officials to allow markets to remain open.
That pesky mute button, doesn't it always still get us a year into this virtual world? But yeah, I guess for those who have been watching know, I've been at CFSA about a year now, which I guess I can't say I'm new anymore, especially talking with someone who's just getting on the ground during this time on staff, is that immediately after this happened, as Angel said, there was issues where local governments were seeing farmers markets as events, which they're not. They're essential businesses where food is purchased. And so, as Angel said, a whole group of folks came together, and RAFI was a big part of this, the Appalachian Sustainable Agriculture Project out west, as well as CFSA. And by coming together and sharing information in North Carolina, we were able to get clarified that farmers markets were grocery stores, and it was an incredible opportunity. And that group is still meeting, and they are sharing ideas with each other. They are learning from each other. It's an incredible community. And just to remark on a couple of policy issues, in addition to the issue with keeping markets open in the first place, we also had the issue with increased expenses. And so in North Carolina, these market managers played a big role in assuring that we got about $750,000 from the state legislature as part of one of the COVID packages to help with those adaptations and assure that these markets could stay in business, because there's a lot of obstacles, we know, and challenges that come into just creating the ability for people to buy local food in their own communities. One other point that I wanted to highlight from that last is the idea of online SNAP. And as those who are familiar with the work of CFSA and RAFI USA and others, online SNAP and the expansion of it is incredibly important. And we've done a lot of advocacy. One thing to note and to watch closely is some funding in the last COVID package actually went to help the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, create a portal, because the biggest issue, and then I'll move on, is the pilot program for online SNAP placed a cost burden on the business who wanted to accept it. And that's fairly simple, but not as simple as you would think for Walmart and Amazon, but for your local farmers markets, not as much. So this would be a great opportunity, I would guess, for y'all. So next, I want to take us back kind of on the more general level and just ask, what would you say that some of the challenges and some of the solutions that people face in starting and maintaining farmers markets, and what policy solutions are there that you see? And yeah, so who wants to start?
So for us in Columbia, South Carolina, I think it's hard sometimes when you're doing a farmer's market. It can be a little isolating, especially if you don't have like a lot of farmer markets in your area or, throughout your state. South Carolina is more informal. So we do have, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. But sometimes there's not always like a standardized farmer's market. It's just a farmer and they have a truck and they're selling their vegetables, which I totally support and am a huge proponent of. I think it's great to have an informal economy. I think it's an asset for our state, and I'm very happy about it. But I think sometimes you don't have the support or the relationships that you need just to kind of say, like, how was your day? How's it going? What's going on in your market? What are you doing? But there's great groups like CSFA, and then there's the Farmers Market Coalition that I'm involved with. And so that has really been a huge resource, because you get a chance with the Farmers Market Coalition. I'm able to talk to people like in Oregon and in LA and Atlanta and Detroit, Michigan. And so that you really get a kind of encompassed view of what's going on nationally, but then what's also going on in each locale, which is just a great resource for sure. For us at the Pinehurst Farmers Market, from our activism with food access, food solidarity, we started the Pinehurst Community Action nonprofit, which is in the farmer education and food access space. And so that allows us, with funding from our donors, to give food solidarity boxes. We call them the Pinehurst COVID-19 solidarity relief boxes. And it's a great opportunity for us to buy fresh that day from the Pinehurst Farmers Market and then give these boxes of solidarity to our community. We have a lot of older people in our community, and they're able to access the food. They don't have to leave their house. And it just shows solidarity between both of us because we're all in this boat rowing down the river together. And it just shows that solidarity. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I've got a follow up for that, but I'll save it for the next round. Angel.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about, SNAP online needing to be, more accessible and more widely accepted. And in addition to that, farmers market specifically, just the process for SNAP to be accepted at a market should be much simpler, and like offsetting that cost, like the cost of equipment, the cost of monthly fees, card processing fees. It would be great to offset that somehow, because as you were saying, Nick, Amazon and Walmart don't have a problem with these fees, but the fees are more significant for, smaller businesses like farmers markets. And I've also heard discussions recently about there being more of a national offering of SNAP incentives for fruits and vegetables, which I think would be a really cool idea to get more funding for these, to make incentives more acceptable, and just to get more access to local fruits and vegetables, because, farmers market produce is more expensive and there's a reason for that. But if, you have a limited budget to buy those fruits and vegetables on, if you're then, given a 50% discount on them at the farmer's market, like that's what people will want to choose most of the time. And then my last thing that I'll touch on as far as farmers market policy things is there needs to be easier land access, easier access to lands, because we need more farmers. We need more young farmers, and people are wanting to farm. People are wanting to get invested in that. People are wanting to farm like maybe their grandparents did, or, they're wanting to get back to the land. And especially, farmers of color and first generation farmers especially have not been given the resources and tools that some other farmers have gotten. And so trying to make farmers market spaces that do accept all farmers and not just kind of the inner community of the farmers who started the farmers market, 20 years ago, but really trying to make it more of an inclusive place to give an outlet of sales to new farmers who may not have had all the access to resources in the past. But yeah, those are my 3 points that I'll leave with.
Well, it's incredible to me just how interconnected our agriculture system is, particularly our local food system, and how all of the policy issues that we work on impact people's ability to buy local food. Because if farmers aren't able to farm, how are they going to get their produce to the farmers market? If people who see the need for local food in their community don't have the ability to get something started without that support, you limit the ability of people to buy local food. So I'm looking at our time, and we're coming close to an end, but as always, want to give you a chance to offer any final thoughts, final insights. And usually this is fairly open-ended, but and we'll start with Angel, I think, to give you a sec, April, but I really want to hear your take and let us know about food sovereignty and what you mean by that. So I want to make sure that gets covered. But I want to turn it over to Angel first, and then we'll, yeah.
Yeah. I think, in trying to find silver linings within COVID happening, I think that something that it's really made me realize, and I think it's made other people realize, is how important community connections are, and how, as April was saying, like so many resources are already in the community, but they're either underfunded, underutilized. And I think with, COVID massively shaking the lives of so many people, it has really taught us to rely on one another, to rely on resources within the community to show like this resource is not in this community. How do we get it here? And what does justice look like when a national pandemic happens? As well as just how much, like how fragile our food system is, the industrialized food system is, and not having access to certain foods at certain times versus going to a market where things are on a much smaller scale, are just readily available for the most part. I think, yeah, COVID is just really changing our food system, hopefully for the better. And I'm excited to see where that goes now that vaccines are getting more widely available and more accessible. So I'm hoping that trend of local food definitely continues, and that more funding is available for incentive programs like Raffi does, and that more markets are able, as April's does, to get food boxes to people who want them and need them. I think there's a lot of exciting things happen that I hope keeps building momentum as we move forward, hopefully past the pandemic in the coming months.
That's twice. Fortunately, we're coming to an end, and I'm not going to do the mute button thing a third time. But one thing that kind of hearing all of this conversation that I wanted to make sure and say is when we buy locally, that money stays in our economy and stays in our community and is an incredibly powerful engine to be able to grow. And just one example of this, and maybe there's a local food calculator in terms of the economic impact that the USDA developed. And just as one example, the CFSA, as those who are familiar with us, there was a program and is a program called Farms Share, where farms and food hubs were paid upfront to provide food, and the people who needed that food didn't have to pay for it because of the Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation and Blue Cross Blue Shield Corporate. And when I ran that number through, it said that $900,000 in the initial program created $1.6 million in economic activity. And also when we were working on the online SNAP, I think it was about for every dollar invested in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, it was, I think, $1.50 or maybe even more. So these are investments in our community that improve the quality of lives of everyone. So want to turn it over to April to take us home. And the floor is yours.
Been such a great conversation. You guys all have had such excellent comments that I'm going to be thinking about for at least the next week or so, for sure. I mean, there's so many issues that we touched on, and I just appreciate this opportunity to chat. For food sovereignty, I think it's so important for every community to have access to their own sovereignty regarding food, to be able to plant a seed, to grow a seed, to support a farmer, to buy a local farmers market, such as the Pinehurst Farmers Market, and for our customers to come out in force and to support the food sovereignty movement in our communities, because it starts at your community and then it goes from there. And we all have to be resilient. I think these are trying times, and we all have to build up our own resiliency in our communities to be able to withstand whatever is coming down the pike. And so being involved in the food movement is an opportunity to do that, to support organizations such as the Pinehurst Community Action nonprofit. And our food advocacy work is a great way to start, to support your local farmer, and to just join conversations like this. This is a huge gift for people to listen. I feel like it's been a gift for me. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure others have learned a lot. And we all have to take one small step. It can seem overwhelming, but we all have to just do one thing, whether it's buying from a local farmer, supporting a local nonprofit, and on, or planting a seed. Spring is here almost, I think, and we can plant.
I'm counting it. I think spring is here. I hear cardinals.
Yes.
Well, our time is coming to a close. I just want to give a hand to both April and Angel for this incredible conversation. I think we all learned a lot, and life is a learning process. I believe a wise person said, as someone who believes the same thing at 50 that they believed at 20 has just wasted 30 years. So we have this conversation, we evolve, we adapt, we're resilient, and we have some great tools to do that, and we're in a great place as well. So thank you again. Thank you to our audience, and CFSA, we'll see you next week.
Bye. Thanks for having me. Have a good day, guys. Enjoy the sunshine.
Yeah.